Hello and welcome to Smart ADHD's first video. This video is aimed at parents to help you maelstrom of knowing that your child has something different about them, that you predict they might have ADHD. There's so much information out there, but actually what you want is practical information that can actually help you, that will give you the guidance and the support and the road that you need, okay? And that's what we have. We have lived experience, and this video focuses on parents to help you navigate the murky waters of everything to do with ADHD. Let's start. The first question you're probably asking yourself is, does my child actually have ADHD? And how on earth do I actually know whether they do or whether they don't? So one thing that you need to be aware of is that there is something called VAST, Variable Attention Stimulus Trait. This often gets overlooked and it often is mistaken for ADHD. Let me highlight a few of the differences for you. If you think about the people who say things like, everyone's a little bit ADHD, well, that's a good way of describing VAST. It's like having ADHD traits, but without the significant impairment that ADHD has or brings. If you think about a temperament that thrives on creativity, impulsivity, changing things all the time and wanting to kind of deliver that sort of ideology, that is essentially VAST. People may perform very well in stimulating roles. Their symptoms may fluctuate depending on their environment. They might often experience difficulty focusing on, say, the TV if they've got a phone near them. ADHD is an impairment and it has lots of knock-on side effects. If you think about self-esteem, for instance, a flippant off-the-cuff comment that means very little to the average neurotypical can sit in an ADHD's mind for weeks, months, years, okay? So there's a real sensitivity, like rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is an ADHD impairment, if you like. It's an issue that people with ADHD have, and it affects how people can go about their lives because they end up lacking that self-esteem due to fear of rejection. And I've got clients who won't leave the house because they've had such negative experiences in the past with people, and they're so scared that they don't want to have that again. So that is a significant ADHD trait, not to be confused with VAST, which is highlights a few of the ADHD traits, but doesn't actually have the day-to-day knock-on impact that ADHD sufferers have. A good way I've used to describe ADHD is the concept of having like a sports car brain with bicycle brakes. So this is another way in which ADHD impairs you. Your brain often works so quickly, but you can't slow it down. It's like that ability to regulate yourself and bring yourself back into normality after being, say, excited or in a certain state. It's very, very difficult and it's very tough, and that damages and affects your day-to-day practices and the things that you do. On the flip side, though, because we're all about positivity in Smart ADHD and reframing things so that they can be positives, ADHDers are often able to do a lot more than, say, your average neurotypical. You might have a number of different projects on the go at the same time. Your mind might be able to seemingly be able to think about 2 or 3 or 4 different things at the same time. A lot of ADHDers can focus and have a TV on in the background, be listening to music over there, be doing their work here, and having a phone call over here. That is one of the main positives of the ADHD brain. Can lead to burnout and overstimulation, but with the right tools in your toolkit, it can be really, really positive. Back to whether your child has ADHD or not. One of the things that you need to bear in mind is the ADHD diagnostic test. What we follow at Smart ADHD is the DIVA-5 world-renowned ADHD diagnostic test. This test is an interesting one because it obviously tests for 2 strands mainly. One is inattentive, one is hyperactivity and impulsivity. Most people, if you look at the results, are combined. They are the combined part of both of those different strains. Very rarely, I think it's about 10% of people come out with just one or the other. It's usually combined. The DIVA-5 test is an interesting one, and this is why it's really important to make sure when you get your assessment, you choose your assessor well. Someone with lived experience who knows how to answer the questions, and make sure that you do it robustly and professionally, because some of the questions can be quite easy to answer. Some of the questions can be quite leading, like, do you often feel fidgety or restless? Well, most people, I think at times, can feel fidgety or restless. So it's important to know, sort of with your assessor, that they have that lived experience and are able to actually understand the condition, to be able to make sure those questions are asked in a way that highlights the actual features of ADHD, so you get an accurate result. Some of the questions are downright silly. For instance, do you often get distracted by extraneous stimuli? Well, I think anyone, if you're a student in a school, if say a random stray dog comes onto the playground and starts running around, everyone gets a little bit distracted by that extraneous stimuli. So once again, it highlights the importance of having an assessor who knows what they're talking about. A lot of parents get to this point and they think, well, I don't think my child has ADHD because of this hyperactivity element, okay? And I have to say that the assessments that I've done, most people score lower on the hyperactivity side than the impulsiveness side. It's this assessor's thought process that actually the DIVA-5 assessment could do with a little bit of tweaking, because the hyperactivity point is actually, a lot of people who work in ADHD would say that is slightly outdated now, because we think about hyperactivity as people jumping up and down on the sofa, or banging a ball against a wall, or not being able to sit still, or whatever. And a lot of ADHDers don't present like that, or they present like that at certain times and occasions. We also have to bear in mind that we're talking about young people here. So where does the line stop between being a young boy or a girl and just having that exuberance and that energy, and ADHD and something that needs to be diagnosed or medicated or looked into or whatever? It's a fine line. So you persevered with the process despite its flaws and so on, and you got yourself a diagnosis. Maybe you found out that your son or daughter has a combined type. Maybe they've got an individualized type. Either way, let's assume they've got ADHD. What do you do next? Well, the facts and the stats are that it's 85% genetic. So it's possibly come from you or your partner. That's one thing to consider. The second and most important thing for me is that I don't think it's that hard for people to get diagnosed with ADHD due to the nature of the questions. So what I always ask people before they come for an ADHD assessment is this: what is your reason for doing it? If I get an answer such as, I want to medicate my child, then that person isn't for smart ADHD. What we want to do is we want to educate people about ADHD and ADHD traits, okay? We can tell you via diagnosis whether you have ADHD or whether you do not have ADHD, but what we are more about is giving you the understanding, the knowledge, and the toolkit to have a happy and productive life. That is our main goal. Parents, we also have over 20 years of experience in special needs and mainstream schools. This guy here spent 20 years in education. I was in senior leadership for most schools. I dealt with parents, different stakeholders to ensure the safety, security, and the productivity of the students under my care. I know how schools work and how they operate. I know how hard and difficult it can be for parents to get the support they need, especially nowadays. Education has no money. We can beat around this bush and beat around this fact, but I talk to head teachers all the time. Schools are skint. Senkos are overwhelmed. Teachers are overwhelmed in general. And I always say to my clients, it's very, very hard to support and advise someone on a condition that you don't have lived experience of, okay? I can't really advise people on the menopause. I can I can read up about it, I can understand about it, but fundamentally, I think you should go to somebody else who has been through that experience if you need support in that area. What I can tell you from lived experience is that you can create an environment for your son or daughter that is natural, that can absolutely help and support and negate the negative effects of their ADHD. You can also medicate them, and medicating them has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. We'll talk about that more in a different video. But in my opinion, I don't think it's right to rush for the meds, and that is why I don't necessarily think the people who just want to medicate their young people are the right people for smart ADHD. We know through lived experience that nutrition, lifestyle choices, sport, wellness, and the right supplements can bring about a huge, impactful difference to young people without them necessarily losing that personality, losing that character, losing the edge they have through medication. And that's not to say that everyone will lose those things if they take medication, but it is sometimes reported. We are creating a plan at Smart ADHD called Smart Healing. We would like you to be part of that. We can help assess your child. We can do it quickly, we can do it efficiently, and we can give you the information that you need. From that information, we will then provide you the toolkit that gives your child the chance of being able to function happily, to be able to thrive in education, and be able to be respectful, kind, upstanding, and live a very, very happy life. That is what we believe, and that is what we want to get across. We don't believe that generic articles are going to help an individual. We believe that bespoke ways forward are the right ways forward, because everyone's ADHD is different. It presents differently in each person. I hope this video has given you some help, some insight, and I hope that you tune back in to learn more about what it's actually like having ADHD with lived experience, how we can support you better. If you got something from this video, please pass it on to somebody else. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.